Welcome, everybody, and a Merry Christmas on this wonderful Christmas Eve. The sun is shining, and we are looking forward to talking to TJ today about Christmas movies that I know will be watching this weekend, as we are going to be separately celebrating this holiday season. So welcome, TJ.
Thank you, Janet. How nice to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to see new faces without masks.
Yes. I now know what yes. You can just look at someone and know who they are.
Yeah. Well, gee, this is the time of year when we like to get a little sentimental. And although that's not, so to go into the sentimental mode for a moment, for me, it's not Christmas until Bing Crosby sings White Christmas. And so 1954's White Christmas with Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye, Rosemary Clooney, and Vera Ellen. It was directed by Michael Cortez, who did Casablanca. And so I thought I'd just give you one or two little tidbits about the film that you probably don't know about. Bing was supposed to be reunited with Fred Astaire, who they did Holiday Inn together, right? And so, but Fred Astaire retired for the first time. I think he retired 3 or 4 times in his career. So this was the first time he had retired. And because he was retired, he wouldn't take the role. But fortunately, he would come out of retirement several times and do movies. But because he was retired, they asked Donald O'Connor to be Bing's sidekick. But while filming, Francis joins the WACS, W-A-C-S. O'Connor contracted a severe bout of query fever, which is something you can pick up from animals. And he contracted this from his co-star, Francis the Talking Mule. And he was pretty sick. In fact, people can die from it, although antibiotics will take care of it. But he was pretty sick, and so Danny Kaye was tapped as a last-minute replacement, which is a delightful replacement. Although O'Connor would have been great too. And if you look, when Rosemary Clooney is dancing with all of those men in her big number, one of her dancing partners is George Chakiris from West Side Story. And he's such a distinctive, gorgeous face, don't you think? So anyway, look for that the next time you see it. It's a Wonderful Life. Never gets tiring. Never. 1946, Frank Capra's masterpiece. Jimmy Stewart, Lionel Barrymore, Donna Reed. Donna Reed's first starring role. Harry Travers plays the angel. He's always adorable. But what most people don't know is that Jimmy Stewart turned this part down when Frank Capra asked him to play George Bailey. And in fact, Capra wrote the script around Jimmy Stewart playing the lead. But Jimmy was just back from World War II, and he wasn't doing so good. And he didn't think he was up to acting yet. But it was Lionel Barrymore who convinced him to take the role, used the film to exorcise his PTSD demons, and then counseled him as needed before and after some of those scenes. And they were lifelong friends ever after. But I remember seeing the film before I even knew this tidbit. Not that that's a tidbit, it's a very essential part of any serviceman's character. But I remember in those scenes, I was scared for him. Even as a teenager watching it for the first time, and even today, you can see the anguish behind the eyes, and and it's most affecting and scary as you worry about the person. So that was pretty cool. That's a good movie. I like that one. And the gal who played Suzu, Carolyn Grimes, lived in Seattle the rest of her life. I remember asking her to come to the Linwood and talk when I showed this for a classics night, a Christmas holiday thing. And anyway, we couldn't afford her, but I got to talk to her. And then, another classic, Sleepless in Seattle, 1993, right?
Yeah.
And Nora Ephron, she's always adorable, right? I love her scripts. But just one little tidbit about that. The scene where Tom Hanks and Victor Garber are crying over the Dirty Dozen, right? I love that's my favorite scene. It's like women are affected by very poignant things, and these guys are like, oh my gosh, oh yeah, and anyway, I think it's really funny. Well, that was improvised.
Oh, what?
And that's really cool. I love these happy little accidents that happen on the set. But that's about the only 3 movies that I get sentimental about. What I like are edgier movies. So one of my favorite Christmas movies, although it's certainly not my husband's, The Lion in Winter, right? 1968, Katharine Hepburn and Peter O'Toole. Wow. Everything about that film is so perfect, from the acting to the cinematography to that castle where they shoot in. I mean, I get chilly just looking at these people inside this dark, damp castle. It's in case you've all seen The Lion in Winter. It's the historical biography of Henry II, and over this Christmas holiday, he's going to announce his successor of his 3 sons, Richard the Lion-Hearted, John Lackland, and his middle son, Geoffrey, who never seems to be taken into account for anything within that family. And Eleanor of Aquitaine is his wife, played by Kate Hepburn. Peter O'Toole plays Henry. Anthony Hopkins, this is his first role in film. He plays Richard the Lion-Hearted, and John Lackland is played by Terry Nigel. And set at Christmas in 1183, Henry has left Eleanor out of, he has her secluded in a castle way out in the middle of nowhere where she can't declare war against him because he's tired of it. And so she comes, and of course they're madly in love, right? They do love each other, but each one is so power hungry that it overrides their love. And it doesn't help that Henry has had so many mistresses, probably more mistresses than he has subjects in his kingdom. So there's so much going on there, and the script is so crisp and tight, and every single actor is incredible. The costumes and the music, and also co-stars Timothy Dalton as the King of France. It's just but there's a lot of bickering and bellowing and arguing and scene chewing. In fact, I think I'd be surprised if that castle is still standing. I'll bet they chewed through the stone walls. But it's just so wonderful. So The Lion in Winter is one of my favorites. And Janet, I have this one for you, being British. Have you seen The Holly and the Ivy?
No, I haven't. I'm going to put that down.
It's from 1954. It's only 80 minutes long. And it feels as though it probably came from a play. It stars Ralph Richardson, Celia Johnson, and she's been nominated for Best Actress Academy Award. She's a BAFTA winner. Margaret Leighton, and a very young Denholm Elliott. Do you remember him from A Room with a View and Indiana Jones? And anyway, it's a very British production, and it's a low-key kind of movie, but black and white, and it's about grown children returning home for Christmas. The first Christmas with their father, who's an English parson. It's their first Christmas after their mother died. And each of the siblings has a secret which they're keeping from their father. And while the padre himself stays preoccupied with trying to reach his parishioners in a meaningful way. It's excellent acting, especially the two leads, the parson and his oldest daughter, who stays at home to care for him, especially since mother's died. So it's called The Holly and the Ivy. And let me see, I should tell you that that The Lion in Winter is on Amazon Prime. If you've never seen it, it's one of those films that I have to go and touch like every 3 or 4 years, and see it again. But The Holly and the Ivy, it was just so, and they touch on, each of the kids has a secret that they feel unable to tell their father for fear, he's a preacher, and that I think they're afraid that they'll lose his love if they tell him, and they don't want the lectures. So I thought it was really nice. And then.
And can you find that on Netflix or Amazon Prime? Do you know?
No, it's on DVD. And
okay.
Also on TCM, but I don't see that it's playing again in 2020. But I just saw it here about a week or so ago, and thought it was really a solid production.
Okay.
And we always have to throw in a documentary. Now, how many Christmas documentaries are there? I know one, and it's called Christmas in China from 2013. It's only 63 minutes long. And this Tom Shaw moved to America from China when he was 8 years old. His parents brought him over. He was, he loves both of his countries. His parents are Chinese and naturalized American citizens. Tom might have been born here, but of course, anyway. So, but in this film, he explores America's dependence on cheap Chinese goods and labor. And he uses his neighbors as guinea pigs for an experiment. For the entire month of December, they cannot buy or use anything in their household which was made in China. Which means goodbye Xbox, goodbye coffee machine, goodbye light bulbs, kids' toys. And when these neighbors begin to realize and go shopping just how much of our everyday things are made in China, it's surprising. And so what starts out as a bit of a lark turns into a deeper questioning look at America's place in the global economy. It's got, culture clash. And it gets Tom himself thinking about his own duality as an American and as of Chinese ancestry, but it's light on its feet. It sounds as if this is pretty heavy, but it's light on its feet. It's funny, and still manages to probe deep as both households try to figure out what it means to be American. So that's it. And there are others. I mean, A Christmas Carol, which has been made more times than you would think possible. But I always find that story pretty affecting and a reminder, you know, of molding who you are, and not allowing yourself to settle in to negativity. But I think the best is probably the 1938 Reginald Owen and Gene Lockhart. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
George C. Scott played Scrooge in 1983, and of course he's always good. And then I wondered if you guys might be interested in. Well, do you want to talk about what your favorite Christmas movies are?
Would anybody like to do that? If they raise their hands and tell me what their favorite movie is?
Christmas movie.
Christmas movie.
Karen.
Yes, I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard some pretty good reviews about Jingle Jangle. Has anybody seen that?
Yep,
I did.
Did you like it?
yes, it was a lot of fun.
Okay.
A lot of fun.
Nice.
Because
A very nicely done film. Very well done.
it's a musical, right?
Yes, it is, and the acting is fantastic. These little kids are amazing.
Oh, good.
Ah.
Yeah.
And the dancing. And the dancing.
Oh, the
dancing.
dancing is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. Choreography, everything is really, it's very bright and gay and lovely.
Good.
And it's a family
Good
movie.
story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a concept, a family movie for Christmas.
How about that? I think my favorite one for Christmas Carol though is Alistair Sim's one.
Oh, right. That was what, 1950?
No, it's got to be 30 something or other. That I'm
No,
talking.
Alistair Sim and Jack Warner, 1951. Yeah, it was
51?
made after the Reginald Owen one.
Okay,
Yeah.
because Sims, I'll never forget him standing at the window and said, "Delightful boy, delightful." It was just. Is that it? It came out in 51.
Yeah, I swear. Yep.
See, well, of course, that's a while ago, so I suppose it seems like forever. I mean, that's my favorite movie.
Right? Well, speaking of something coming out a while ago, I've got I did a couple of New Year's Eve movies, and I think one of the best New Year's Eve movies made was in 1921. Silent film called The Phantom Carriage. Has anyone seen it?
No.
No.
It is so delightfully creepy and wonderful and scary. It's a silent film made by Swedish actor Victor Seastrom, who is considered the father of Swedish cinema. And the story is the last person to die on New Year's Eve before the clock strikes 12 is doomed to take the reins of death's horse and carriage and spend the entire year collecting fresh dead souls
Oh, dear.
until the strike of the clock on next New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And 1921, okay, it is so atmospheric. It's a Dickensian ghosty sort of story. It's a very moving morality tale, and it showcases the groundbreaking special effects of 1921. And this was the picture that inspired Ingmar Bergman to make movies.
Oh.
I highly recommend it. Now, it's on DVD. You can get it through Amazon. And if you have a DVR, a recording device, it's on TCM, Turner Classic Movies, on December 28th.
Okay.
At oh my God in the morning. So check the listings, okay? You're looking for The Phantom Carriage, 1921, and I promise you it's a really good time. Yeah. And then another New Year's Eve movie, When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, yeah.
Nora Ephron, right? 1989. Directed by Rob Reiner. Co-stars Carrie Fisher. It's always good to see her. Bruno Kirby, both of whom are no longer with us. Directed by Rob Reiner. Songs and music by Harry Connick Jr. I mean, it's, yeah. And it's on Amazon Prime. And that's always eminently viewable. Yeah. And then another one that kind of celebrates New Year's Eve is The Sum of Us. This is Russell Crowe and Jack Thompson, set in Sydney, Australia. This was the film that launched Russell Crowe's career. It's a comedy drama based on a play. The story, after the death of his wife, a father is trying to find Ms. Right, and his gay son is trying to find Mr. Right. So, yeah. Anyway, that's The Sum of Us. Yeah. Anyone else have any favorite holiday movies they want to share?
Well, I suppose my kid's favorite holiday movie is The Best Christmas Story Ever, and which now you're going to ask me who's in it. It's the one that's got the fragile leg lamp in it.
Oh,
Isn't that called The Christmas Story?
yes.
Yes. And I watched it first of all in July. Chris was away, and I went to the store on Bainbridge, and the guy who ran the store said that I could have this movie for free if I didn't think it was the funniest movie ever. So I take the movie home, myself and my 3 kids sit down and watch it, and I go back and I said, this is the funniest movie ever. And every year, my kids always phone me up to tell me they've at least watched it once. They just think it's silly.
Nice.
There's a short story by Truman Capote, which I believe is A Christmas Memory, but it was also made into a movie. And the movie was this, I don't know if I've got it all right, but anyway, it was a really touching. They're making fruit cakes. They're gathering the nuts first in an old baby carriage, and it's really these two kind of outsider people in the family, the old lady and the little kid. And I think he's the little kid. And it's a wonderful movie. And of course I can picture the actress, but I can't think of who she is, the name right now.
A Christmas Memory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Truman Capote is the author of the story.
It was in Geraldine Brooks, was it? It was one of the older women that's Southern actresses.
Yeah.
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 It is called A Christmas Memory.
Yeah, Geraldine, I don't know if it's Brooks. It's something like that. Geraldine something.
Geraldine.
Yeah,
Laurie.
a well-known actress. I mean,
Hyper Laurie.
Oh, Piper Laurie.
Piper
Not
Laurie?
Piper Laurie. Not Piper Laurie.
No.
It's called A Christmas Memory.
Geraldine Chaplin.
I don't know.
Patty Duke's in there too.
A Christmas Memory.
Yeah. And then another one we love and can watch over and over, and is sort of for us a New Year's movie, is The Red Violin.
Oh, yeah.
The Red Violin.
Are you familiar with The Red Violin?
Oh,
I am. Yeah.
Pardon?
it's
Yeah,
Piper Laurie.
and it's a really wonderful story about this. It's this violin, and the way the story is told, it starts at the modern times, and this violin is coming up for auction. But then, as it comes up, everybody who's in the auction room has this connection, but historically to the red violin, and it goes back to when it was first made. And so you get the story of its being made, and the famous, the violin maker's wife died, and after her death, he puts some of her blood into the varnish, and then it goes to each person or who owned the violin and how it went to the next thing. And oh my gosh, it's a long movie, but it's a fabulous movie.
It's kind of like 3 short stories as it gets into everybody who's owned this violin until it gets back to the guy who built it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's just, you can watch it and rewatch it. I don't always it's like a book. I don't always like to reread the book, but I mean, this movie you can watch and rewatch very, very easily.
I have one that I just watched, which I will watch again and again and again, which is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And now, I mean, you've got at least 2 Oscar nominations right there.
Viola Davis, Chadwick, yeah.
Chadwick, Chick, and Olivia Davis. Does she play it to the max? Oh my God. I'm sitting there just with I don't think I closed my mouth the entire time. It was just like, wow, what a flick, you know? And I mean, I will watch it again because it was such an amazing, it's a tough film, but it's a gorgeous film, gorgeous stuff.
And good music, I would imagine.
And it's true story.
Right.
Yes.
Chadwick is also in another film. Oh, right. Spike Lee's movie, The Five Bloods.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it also stars Delroy Lindo. 4 African-American veterans returned to Vietnam decades after the war to find their squad leader's remains and a stash of buried gold. And that's on Netflix. Has anyone seen it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Carolyn,
yeah.
what do you think?
I gotta go. I can't tell you how many I got here. I want to see my best comments on this.
Okay.
So hold
Tell
on
me
a
again
second.
what it's called, TJ.
It's called DA, the number 5 Bloods. The
Okay.
5 Bloods.
Okay.
I gave it 4. I rate them 1 to 4. I gave it 4. I noticed that it was filmed in Chiang Mai, and I thought Chiang Mai resonated with me because I knew people that used to export from there. It's a lot of 70s music. It's just totally engrossing.
Okay.
Indeed.
All right. Another one that's available on Showtime and Amazon is First Cow. Did anyone see that?
Oh, yeah. What was that about?
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, Sheila! It was written and directed by Kelly Reichardt, who did Wendy and Lucy. And Kelly's movies are small, intimate affairs, character-driven, but you spend the whole film kind of on prickly needles as you wait for the shoe to drop and their lives blow up, right? And this is about the 2 guys, one of whom is Chinese American, who are surreptitiously stealing milk from the first cow that came into the Oregon Territory. And they're making biscuits, and they're getting enough money to get out of the mud hole that was Portland, Oregon in the early 1800s, right?
Yeah.
And boy, I'll tell you, the set designers and the costumers really got it right. I mean, they looked cold and wet through the whole movie. And you know, and I kind of like her films. I think she's a very quietly daring filmmaker. You know, in Wendy and Lucy, that was Michelle Williams. She's trying to work her way up to Alaska to get into the canning industry to try to earn a living for she and her dog. And she's broken down in Portland, you know, and she shows her characters seem to have no real resources, and only a wisp of a dream of getting out from under the oppression and the poverty under which they live. And so you're always rooting for her characters, while at the same time you're really afraid that the odds are too great against them.
Yeah.
There are a couple more. There's one called "I'm Thinking of Ending Things."
Yeah.
It was written and directed by Charlie Kaufman, right? Who did The Unbearable Lightness of Being. It's based on Ian Reid's book, full of misgivings. A young woman travels with her new boyfriend to his parents' secluded farm. Trapped at the farm during a snowstorm, she begins to question the nature of everything she knew about her boyfriend, about herself, and about the world. And it's on Netflix. And then one that Ron recommends. You remember Ron Carlson, who he worked at the Linwood with me? Yeah. Who doesn't love Ron? He saw Mank. It's on Netflix. M-A-N-K. It stars Gary Oldman as Herman Mankiewicz and Amanda Seyfried as Marion Davies. Okay, who was the girlfriend of William Randolph Hearst.
Yeah.
It's written by Jack Fincher, the movie. 1940 Hollywood. RKO hires 24-year-old wonderkind Orson Welles under a contract that gives him full creative control of his movies. And for his first film, he calls in the washed-up alcoholic Herman J. Mankiewicz to write the screenplay. And that film is Citizen Kane. So, and this is a story of how that film was written. Now, Herman Mankiewicz is the uncle to Ben Mankiewicz, who is the host of TCM.
I think it was more than one movie, but I thought it was kind of fun. Like it could be a holiday type movie. Is Bridget Jones' Diary.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun movie. Yes.
Renee Zellweger.
Colin Firth.
Colin Firth, yes. Yeah.
And she does, I mean, it makes you laugh right out loud. You know, you're not just chuckling, you're just howling because it was fun. It was fun. And I did find that that one movie I mentioned, Christmas Memory, I think it was Geraldine Page.
Okay.
And it was 1997.
The madman, TJ, is a doctor who was in the Civil War in America. We're going back 100 years, and gets caught in, is a little mad, and gets caught up and jailed. And as part of this deal, the gentleman who is running this, you have to watch the movie, but he puts out he asks for people to write in and tell them the words that should be in the dictionary and what they mean. And I won't tell you more than that. So, but it's Sean Penn is the madman, and Mel Gibson is the professor. And and I think it's not very long. It's on Netflix.
Yep.
Okay.
Streaming.
Yeah.
Streaming.
Cool. Wow, guys. Well, thank you for this. Janet, thank you for asking me. How nice to see your faces again.
Yes.